Hello, it's Joe Simhart. This is episode 12 of Cults in the Occulture, and I'm going to be talking about the characteristics of cult leaders. And most of you know this face. This picture of Charles Manson is featured on the cover of Life magazine in December 1969. When all of the nefarious activities of his group called the Family broke out in the news. And I don't need to go into the history of that. Most recently, it was parodied in a movie by Quentin Tarantino called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, starring Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. Good film, by the way. So, what I want to look at is what's special about cult leaders. What's special about Charlie Manson? People called him a sociopath, a criminal, some a genius. His members thought he was Jesus and Satan all rolled up into one. He was in jail more than out of jail when he was a young man. And he studied something that was related to Satanism when he was in jail. He also looked at Scientology. So he wasn't unfamiliar with ideas and how to manipulate people. He was very good at it. He could play music. He was charming. According to the women that knew him, he was a good lover. He was gentle. But he could also be harsh and brutal and get people to do horrible things for him, like kill people. So what are these traits about? Narcissism and antisocial personality disorder are two of the main traits that we attribute to malignant cult leaders. So I drew up this little sketch here, the character traits of narcissism and antisocial personality. And I have them in descending order as traits, and they can be attractive. Being antisocial or narcissistic can be attractive. Some of these people that have these traits are entertainers, they run companies, they might behave well in the military. In other words, the traits have not become exaggerated or disordered. When they become disorders, then we start attributing things like manipulative and malignant to the disorders. We see behaviors that begin to show harm to people that get involved with individuals with these traits. But when the traits, going down, devolve into crime, we tend to associate that more with the antisocial personality disorder than we do with narcissism. Malignant narcissism tends to be very self-centered, very grandiose, very manipulative, but doesn't get into crime so much, mainly because the narcissist doesn't want to get caught doing something that will trap them in jail, where antisocial types don't seem to care whether they're in jail or not. And Charlie Manson thrived in the jail system. He knew it very well. So another way to look at this, looking at comparing narcissistic and antisocial personality in Psychology Today, an article from there that came out in recently. Second, it says, regarding how to differentiate antisocial and narcissistic, the results show that unlawful behavior and outward aggression distinguished antisocial personality, while viewing oneself as high status and very special distinguished narcissistic personality. Simply put, though both personalities tend to exploit people, an entitled and arrogant person is more likely to be narcissistic, while an aggressive individual with a criminal history is probably antisocial. These articles go on to say that cult leaders tend to have a blend of these traits, male or female. They don't necessarily act in an antisocial way all the time. They can be very charming, very glib. And, while someone is devoted to someone like this, they see them as a hero. And ex-members of groups that were involved in things like the family of Charlie Manson up here will invariably begin to see reality and see how awful the experience was and how damaging. One of the books that I have given to many people that have been damaged by abusive relationships and malignant cults is this book by Dr. Janja Lalich and Madeleine Tobias, Take Back Your Life. It's the second edition of this. This is the 2006 edition. Some of the information is dated. As time goes on, things change. Some of the people that they mention in here as resources may not be alive, but the book is still basically very, very good in terms of helping an ex-member understand what happened to them and how someone like a Charlie Manson could take control of their lives and make them feel like they're in a hero system rather than in a malignant trap. There's a lot of good discussion in here about what makes a cult leader and the traits. One of the criticisms I have of the book is that it tends to describe what we would describe as a masculine or a male cult leader. There's some variances in behavior when a female takes over. So I think that discussion needs to be looked at more thoroughly. I haven't seen a good study done on what the difference is between male and female cult leaders or gay and heterosexual cult leaders, that kind of variation. And there are some differences. So if you're get tangled up with somebody that seems to be charming and later find out that you've been gaslighted or in some way manipulated, you might find this out in 1 week, or you might find this out in 20 years. I mean, it can take that long for some people to discover that they've been involved in a charismatic relationship with a manipulative narcissist or a manipulative and controlling antisocial person. So anyway, there's a lot of literature online about it. I just wanted to give you a little insight into some of the characteristics in descending order of a cult leader. And remember, narcissism and antisocial personality traits are not necessarily a disorder. So you have to be very careful when labeling people with these sort of things, because people can use these traits for good things. And not without some caution, obviously, maybe some self-awareness. They know where their boundaries are and when they cross boundaries and they pull back. But people that don't know where the boundaries are and rely on these traits to get them through life and exaggerate them, then the traits fall into a disorder. And that's where the problems begin. And that's where groups that we call cults, fall off the fringe of social morality and ethics and become grandiose and elitist and do quite a bit of harm in many cases. So I'll leave it at that. I just wanted to give a brief discussion about these two traits of narcissism and antisocial personality that applies to cult leaders like Charlie Manson. Thank you.